Stand in the back. Family gets front row. My dad said at his $10,800 retirement party. My sister smirked. You're lucky we even took a photo with you. Everyone laughed. The slideshow skipped me. The Lakehouse I spent $58,000 renovating? Gifted to Lena mid-cake. I smirked. Fitting. That night, I froze the utilities, pulled my name from the deed, and mailed one envelope to the HOA. Stand in the back. Family gets front row, Dad barked, adjusting his cufflinks like he was some king. I froze for a second. The photographer glanced at me awkwardly, then motioned me to step aside. My sister Lena smirked, eyes glinting like she'd just won some invisible prize. You're lucky we even took a photo with you, she whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. The room erupted in shallow laughter, not real laughter, but that thin, brittle kind people used to feel superior. The slideshow rolled on the massive projector screen behind us, Dad's life in highlights, childhood photos, old trophies, pictures of him and Lena at charity galas, vacations, the Lakehouse by Pine Ridge. The very same Lakehouse I'd poured $58,000 into renovating last year. Every photo carefully curated, and not a single one with me in it. I stood there, stiff, breathing slow, so no one could see my chest heaving under my dress shirt. Not now. Not here. The waiter passed around the second round of champagne. Dad was halfway through his speech, thanking his wonderful family for organizing his $10,800 retirement party, paid for, as usual, by me. Though you'd never know it by listening to him. Lena, of course, you've been my rock, Dad gushed, raising his glass toward her. You've handled everything so perfectly. Couldn't have done this without you. I clenched my jaw so tight it clicked. My stomach twisted, but I forced a smile, the same one I learned to wear at every family event. The same one that said, I know my place. Then came the gut punch. Oh, and before we forget, I almost let this slip. Dad chuckled as he pulled out a small envelope and handed it to Lena like he was presenting her with a royal decree. The Lakehouse is officially yours now, sweetheart. It's under your name. Fully transferred. The applause that followed was deafening. My ears rang as Lena squealed and hugged Dad, burying her perfectly manicured nails into his expensive suit. I blinked a few times, locking my knees to keep from staggering. The Lakehouse. The one I refinanced my own home to help restore. The one I rebuilt the deck for. The one I stayed up nights researching contractors and materials for. The one they always said we were preserving for the family. Fitting, I whispered to no one, letting the word escape like bitter steam. I could feel Dad's eyes on me for half a second, but he turned away fast, like I was a ghost, already forgotten. That night, when the party was over and the fake smiles faded, I made my move. By 2 a.m., I had logged into the utility accounts for the Lakehouse, accounts that were still, legally, in my name. I froze the gas, electricity, and water. Next, I logged into the county property records. The quitclaim deed I'd signed last year? It was contingent on pending obligations. A clause no one had bothered to read, except me. I filed a rescindment, pulling my name from liability and nullifying my guarantee on the property. The final move? One envelope. I sealed a thick stack of papers, copies of the frozen accounts, the rescindment notice, and a formal letter addressed to the HOA, notifying them that all further fees and maintenance would no longer involve me. I slipped it into the outgoing mail. And finally, I slept. I wasn't always invisible. At least, I don't think I was. Growing up, I did what every good son was supposed to do: work hard, stay quiet, sacrifice. I was the fixer. The one who held everything together while Dad chased his promotions, while Mom held court at her charity luncheons, and while Lena existed to be adored. Family helps family, Dad used to say. But in our family, that always meant I helped them. The first time I bailed them out, I was 24. Dad's business partner had siphoned funds. Bankruptcy loomed. I took out a personal loan for $20,000, wiped out most of my savings. It's just temporary, son, Dad promised. We'll make it right. They never paid me back. Then came Lena's law school. Top private university, naturally. Tuition, books, off-campus apartment, the whole package. And when her financial aid didn't cover everything, guess who stepped in? You know how fragile Lena gets under pressure, Mom would whisper like it was a sacred mantra. She just needs stability. I co-signed her loans, paid some of her rent when she fell behind, covered her car payments for 2 years. Quietly, consistently. And when she graduated, when Lena finally passed the bar, they threw her a massive party at that same country club, the one where they held Dad's retirement gala. $15,000. Open bar. Live jazz band. I footed half the bill. No one even thought to toast me. But it wasn't just the money. It was the hierarchy. The unspoken rule that I was useful, but never quite enough. Holidays? Lena's preferences came first. Vacations? Lena picked the destinations. Even birthdays became a competition. One year, Dad actually forgot mine entirely because Lena had just gotten engaged to Ethan, the trust fund fiancé with the permanent smug smile. You understand, right? Mom had said, voice sticky sweet. It's just been so busy planning the engagement. Right. Of course. Planning. And I swallowed it. Over and over. The Lakehouse was supposed to be different. When the roof caved in during that brutal winter storm 3 years ago, they were going to sell it. We just can't afford to keep it up anymore, Dad sighed, shaking his head over a stack of repair estimates. Unless I stepped in. So I did. I negotiated contractors, handled permits, paid $58,000 out of my pocket. I took weekends off work to drive up, hammer nails, haul lumber, install insulation myself. It became my project, my sanctuary. We'll make this a family legacy, Dad promised. For all of us. But I should have known better. The cracks grew wider last year when Dad started talking about his retirement. You know, he told me over drinks one night, Lena's done so much. So selfless. So driven. She reminds me of myself, honestly. I just nodded, my teeth grinding behind my polite smile. Selfless? Driven? Lena worked 30 hours a week at a boutique law firm that Mom's sorority friend owned. She still used my Netflix account. But challenging Dad was like punching fog. He'd simply wave his hand and change the subject. And Lena? She always knew how to twist the knife. You don't need the Lakehouse like we do, she purred one afternoon, swirling her wine. We're planning to start a family soon. Little ones need nature, you know. Right. Nature. And my $58,000. The final blow came last month, when Mom cornered me in the kitchen during Sunday brunch. Listen, sweetheart, she began, tone rehearsed. We think it's time for Lena to really settle in. She's done so much for this family. The Lakehouse, it just makes sense for her to take full ownership. I blinked. Full ownership? We're not co-owners. She flinched slightly, but recovered. Well, you were always helping us out. You never asked for anything in return. I stared at her. My own mother. The woman whose mortgage I covered after Dad's second failed investment. You're right, I whispered, voice cold and steady. I never did. She patted my arm, mistaking my numbness for surrender. That's what makes you such a blessing, honey. From that moment forward, everything inside me shifted. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I was done being their safety net. I was done being useful. And I was done being invisible. I didn't tell them about the utilities. I didn't mention the deed reversal. I let them walk straight into their own disaster. And sure enough, it didn't take long. 2 weeks after Dad handed Lena the Lakehouse keys like some twisted coronation, my phone rang while I was sipping coffee on my balcony. It was Lena, voice trembling, panicked. Can you explain why there's no heat or water at the Lakehouse? The electrician says the account's frozen. And the HO, it just sent me a violation notice about unpaid maintenance fees. What's going on? I smiled into my mug. Oh, that's odd, I said coolly. You should call the new property owner. Not my problem anymore. You are the property owner, she snapped. Your name's still on everything. Not anymore. I cut her off. Check the paperwork. There was a pause. Long, pregnant. I could practically hear her mind spiraling. You can't do that, she whispered, voice shaking. Already did. Click. I hung up. 3 hours later, the family ambush began. I walked into my parents' house like a soldier entering enemy territory. Mom sat at the head of the dining table, pale and tight-lipped. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, face stormy. Lena was already there, red-faced, flipping through a manila folder of legal documents. Sit, Dad ordered. I stayed standing. Dad's voice was low but dangerous. Explain. Now. I kept my tone measured. I simply exercised my rights. The utilities were always under my name. The deed transfer was conditional. You violated those conditions when you gifted my investment without my consent. So I nullified the agreement. You're sabotaging your own family, Dad hissed. This is petty. Vindictive. Lena slammed the folder shut, her composure cracking. You're ruining everything, you selfish person. We have plans. I'm pregnant, for God's sake. I blinked. Of course. The ace up her sleeve. Congratulations, I said flatly. Still doesn't entitle you to steal from me. We didn't steal anything. She shrieked. You never even wanted the Lakehouse. You barely used it. You fixed it up because you offered. Mom finally spoke, voice sugary with thinly veiled guilt. Honey, you've always been so generous. Why are you acting like this now? We're a family. I laughed sharp, humorless. You're right. I was generous. I paid for your mortgage, Dad's failed business deals, Lena's tuition, her car, her wedding showers. I've funded this family like a private ATM for over a decade. And every time, you smiled and patted me on the back like I was some loyal golden retriever. You never had to help, Dad growled. You offered. Because you manipulated me into believing I owed it to you. I finally snapped, voice rising. Every favor you needed was packaged as family loyalty. Every sacrifice I made was expected, never appreciated. And when I finally asked for a sliver of respect, you hand the house I built over to your favorite child during your retirement party like it was a door prize. Mom's eyes glistened. But you have a good job, sweetheart. You're doing so well. Your sister needed the house more than you, because she never learned to stand on her own feet. I barked. You babied her through everything. And I carried the weight so she wouldn't have to. Lena's voice dropped, venomous. You're just bitter. You've always been jealous of me. Admit it. I stepped forward, close enough to feel the static between us. My voice dropped into a dangerous calm. Jealous? Of what? The debt? The entitlement? The way you let Mom and Dad rewrite every rule so you never faced a single consequence in your life? No, Lena. I'm not jealous. I'm done. Dad slammed his fist on the table, veins bulging. You're blowing up this family over property. Over some cabin. No, I said, my voice cold and final. I'm ending years of being used and ignored. Of being used. Of being invisible. Silence swallowed the room. And then Mom started crying, that theatrical, exaggerated sob she always pulled when things didn't go her way. You're breaking my heart, she whimpered. I never thought you'd turn on us like this. I locked eyes with her. You never thought I'd stop playing my role. Dad stepped forward, trying to regain control. If you walk out that door, don't expect to walk back in. I stared at him. That's the point. I turned and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard Lena screaming, some garbled insult about betrayal, selfishness, family. I didn't turn back. As I reached for the handle, Dad fired his last shot. You'll regret this. I opened the door, smiled over my shoulder, and said, No, you will. And then I left. For the first few days after I walked out, my phone never stopped buzzing. Texts, missed calls, voicemails, some pleading, some angry, some pathetically transparent guilt trips. Please call your mother. You're breaking her heart. Family comes first. We can still fix this. Think about your niece or nephew. You've made your point. Now stop being dramatic. I ignored every single one. Then came phase 2, the flying monkeys. That's what my therapist would later call them. Family friends, old neighbors, distant relatives, all suddenly concerned for my well-being. Your father worked so hard for you. Lena's pregnant. You should be supporting her. It's just a house. Is it worth destroying your family? I wanted to scream. But instead, I smiled. Because finally, they were scared. For the first time, I wasn't their safety net. By week 2, the narrative shifted again. Dad tried legal threats. He sent a strongly worded letter through some half-rate attorney. Failure to comply with the original verbal agreement may result in legal action for breach of familial obligations. Familial obligations? Is that even a real legal term? My lawyer, a very expensive one, by the way, laughed so hard I thought he might fall out of his chair. Let him try, he said. If anything, you've got grounds to sue them for financial exploitation. Lena, meanwhile, cranked up her own campaign. She posted thinly veiled sob stories on Facebook and Instagram. Some people would rather burn bridges than build a family. Pregnant and heartbroken, but staying strong. #family first, #stay strong mama, #toxic people. The comments flooded in. You're so brave, babe. Your brother will come around. Haters gonna hate. I didn't engage. I didn't need to. The silence was my revenge. Then came the nuclear option. They sent Mom. One Sunday morning, she showed up at my apartment, uninvited, holding a Tupperware container of her famous casserole, like we were still pretending everything was normal. Sweetheart, she said softly, standing in my doorway. Can I come in? Just for a minute. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She sat at my kitchen table like nothing had happened, smoothing her skirt, smiling that same tight smile she always used before delivering bad news. Look, we all made mistakes, she began. Your father's under a lot of stress. Lena's pregnancy hormones. You know how emotional women can get. I stared at her in disbelief. Even now, excuses. You were always the strong one, honey, she continued. That's why we've leaned on you more. You've been so blessed. You've done so well for yourself. My stomach churned. You mean, that's why you used me, I corrected. Her smile froze. I just want us to be a family again, she whispered. Your father's health isn't what it used to be. There it was. The guilt card. The tears welled up perfectly in her eyes like clockwork. You don't want him to pass with this between you, do you? I exhaled slowly. Funny, I said. I've carried this family on my back for years. Paid your bills. Saved your house. Funded Lena's life. And the one time I say no, I'm the villain. Her lower lip trembled. But I didn't stop. If Dad's health is failing, maybe you should have thought about that before handing over everything I built to your golden child. That's not fair. It's not fair. I barked, my voice finally breaking. You watched them bleed me dry. You watched Dad humiliate me in front of the entire family at that party. And you said nothing. She flinched like I slapped her. I didn't want to lose my family, she whispered. You already did. She sat there in silence, face crumpling. Please, she whispered. We need you. There it was the truth. Not love. Need. I stood, walked to the door, and opened it. You know where the exit is, I said calmly. She left, silently sobbing into her casserole dish. Weeks passed. Dad went fully silent. Lena stayed busy playing the victim online. But word spreads. And then something happened I didn't expect. One day, an envelope arrived. Thick, handwritten, no return address. Inside was a letter from Ethan, Lena's husband. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I need to tell you something. I've seen what your family has done to you. I never realized how deep it went until I married into it. Lena's spending is out of control. She maxed out our credit cards. Your parents keep covering for her, but it's not enough anymore. The house they just gave her? She already tried to take out a second mortgage on it and was denied because of your legal block. Honestly, I'm leaving her. I can't live like this. And I wanted you to know, you were never the problem. I sat there, reading his words over and over. Finally, after all these years, someone inside the circle saw what I'd endured. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I was simply done being their mule. That night, I slept better than I had in years. 3 months later, I stood on the balcony of my new condo, staring out at the skyline. The cool evening breeze carried a calm I hadn't felt in years. No more calls. No more guilt. No more weight on my shoulders. Just peace. The fallout came faster than even I expected. Without my financial support, the family house started crumbling, both literally and figuratively. Dad's retirement account? Already drained from trying to cover Lena's spending. The Lakehouse? The one they tried to gift behind my back? Foreclosed. The HOA sued for unpaid fees, unpaid utilities, and maintenance penalties stacked up like a mountain they couldn't climb. Lena's social media fairy tale collapsed too. After Ethan left, the truth seeped out. Her designer bags? Maxed out credit cards. Her luxury SUV? Repoed. Her law job? Gone. Turns out, Mommy's friend couldn't save her forever. She moved back in with Mom and Dad, 3 broke parasites now feeding on each other. The golden family throne? Shattered. I heard rumors, of course, from old neighbors, from distant relatives, from people who used to whisper behind my back, but now nodded with quiet respect when they passed me on the street. The whispers went something like, you know, maybe he was never the problem. He finally stood up for himself. Good for him. And then, like a final pathetic encore, one last envelope came. From Dad. Son, I know things have gotten out of hand. Your mother misses you. Lena's struggling. We all made mistakes. Family is family. If you're willing to talk, we can rebuild. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry. Because I was finally free. For years, I had mistaken duty for love. Sacrifice for loyalty. Financial servitude for family. But standing here now, overlooking the city I built my own life in, with no strings attached, I finally understood. They never loved me for who I was. They loved what I gave. And now that the giving stopped, so did the illusion. I walked back inside my condo, phone buzzing with a text from my real friend group. Dinner plans. Laughter. People who valued me for me, not my bank account. And as I closed the sliding door behind me, blocking out the distant world of my past, I smiled. I wasn't their puppet anymore. I was done. And this time, it was permanent.